For Morocco, immigration is a weapon and immigrants are the ammunition. When Morocco wants to achieve its goals, it just opens the migration tab and lets 10,000 people enter Ceuta. In 48 hours, there will be a 30 million euro check. What happened?
To what extent? Is Europe in cahoots with certain lobbies so that this problem isn't a result of negligence, but a plan?
NGOs, most of the humanitarian organizations that currently operate around illegal immigration, don't need outside funders. The European Commission alone is funding the whole system of humanitarian organizations. Most grants for humanitarian organizations come from Europe, provincial governments, city councils, or the government itself. Their main support comes from public funding. I've received many and reported them, and once was hit on the head with a bar leaving my house. For doing what I'm doing now by people from the Maghreb for doing what I'm doing.
Hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of LA Factoria.
This time we have the great expert in illegal immigration and crime, Rubén Pulido.
How are you, Rubén? Glad you're here.
No, the pleasure is mine.
Rubén, for those who don't know you.
A lot of my audience from Latin America follows me, and practically everyone from my Spanish audience already knows you.
How would you define yourself? Who are you? Are you an activist? What is your background that allows you to speak with such authority on the topics you talk about as of today?
I would describe myself as a servant to the homeland. I joined the armed forces at 19 years old, and I have spent more than 10 years in the armed forces. I proudly pledged allegiance to the flag. And I always say that now I continue defending my country, but in other trenches, raising awareness about what is happening regarding illegal and uncontrolled immigration. And when I left the armed forces, I specialized in this whole world of immigration. I have advised political parties and different organizations on this matter. And well, this is what I've been doing since I left those other trenches and where I am now. Well, as I told you, trying to make people aware of what's happening because there's a lot of ignorance. People don't know the magnitude of the problem, and it's not just a problem anymore, but a threat that's hanging over us. With the issue of illegal and uncontrolled immigration, because that's also important, because illegal immigration is currently out of control. A lot of people are coming to our country using legal channels like airports. But then their stays become illegal, and there's also chaos at the borders, including at airports. There are many people who use forged documents, who use tourist visas, which then turn into those illegal stays. And many people are not being checked because the state security forces don't have the resources, they don't have the logistical or human resources. When the flow of people, whether by sea, by land, or by air, is just like what we have now, it's hard to control who enters our country, very complicated. And obviously, criminal networks are taking advantage of that to infiltrate with intentions that are not to contribute, but to destabilize.
Rubén, are you referring to uncontrolled illegal immigration as a threat? We recently have the case of Alcalá de Henares, and we also recently have the case of inappropriate touching of an 11-year-old girl in a swimming pool in Murcia. We have the beating that was just given to an elderly man in Torre Pacheco. I don't really understand why, but it makes my blood boil.
What do you think about all these cases?
Let's see. All of this is happening because right now there are many areas of Spain and Spain itself that have turned into a theme park for imported crime. Why do I define it that way? I define it that way because this series of criminal acts in those countries of origin carry an even harsher penalty than they do here in our country, in Spain. So for them, this is like an amusement park. They can commit crimes repeatedly. In Barcelona, we have an example of this where this repeated criminal behavior has even been brought before a parliamentary committee. Because, surprisingly, now the political parties in the Catalan parliament have realized that this exists, that it's happening on the streets. That repeated criminal behavior that comes from other countries. And so Faced with all that impunity surrounding these criminal acts, they keep happening over and over again, if you'll pardon the redundancy. After a violent robbery, they face a judge. Since he's Algerian, we can't deport him. There are no repatriation agreements with Algeria. Released with charges, but he doesn't stay in jail, prison, or repatriation. Also, Henry, in many cases, he's undocumented. The situation with Moroccans is similar, as the Moroccan regime decides how many we can return. So when a Moroccan is detained, it's the same issue. If they release the one who killed a young man in Alicante with a baseball bat, they let him go in that case.
From Gata de Gorgos.
Right? Exactly. They let him go. And that's how it is. Touching a minor? Well, possibly it's already a very common comment even on social media. I see it on my ex account. When I share news about a crime, I see a comment. Tomorrow he's out on the street, tomorrow he's out. That's how it is. And the day after he's out on the street. He commits another crime and another crime and another crime and another crime. And that's how you get people with up to 40 or 50 prior police records. Why does this happen? It's due to the current situation at our borders. Because these aren't borders that select who enters and who doesn't enter our country. They are non-existent borders through which anyone can enter. And when you let anyone in, it's not going to be used by someone who wants to build a life in your country. It's going to be used by those who are already taking advantage of it. Common criminals, and not just common criminals, but also highly radicalized individuals who have been entering in recent years. And that's something people talk very little about as well. We're not only facing a migration crisis that overwhelms our borders with crime and imported criminality, but it also exports terrorism. Because you just have to look at the reports from the Ministry of the Interior, the public reports on the fight against terrorism, those reports on the fight against terrorism, Ministry of the Interior. Anyone can check it, and we can see how arrests have skyrocketed exponentially. A few years ago, just a couple of years ago, we ended the year with 70-something arrests. Last year with more than 80. This year, so far, we've already had more than half 100. He points out that the year will end with more than 100 people arrested for jihadist terrorism in European territory. In Spain, we're not discussing over 100 arrests in Casablanca, Morocco, or Algeria, where both terrorism and friendship are being pursued, are we? But we're talking about Spain. In Spain, over 100 people, as that's how the year will end, with over 100 detained, who intended to form jihadist cells to carry out attacks on Spanish territory, to set up control centers. All of that, everything I'm saying has happened on Spanish soil, just like on Spanish soil. Right now, the networks of those same criminals are also established, facilitating illegal immigration routes to pick up their clients. Previously, they were placed on boats to Almeria, where they disembarked and sought help from humanitarian groups and fellow countrymen to make a living. No, the traffickers are already here and often wait for you in a car by the roadside. The road that connects to the cove where you landed, to advise you on where you need to go, what you have to do, what you shouldn't do, which non-governmental organization to contact, which route to take so that the police don't know anything about you. And that's the situation we have. And faced with a situation like that, well, all we can do is expect that crime will increase exponentially and that any day now we might suffer a new terrorist attack. That's about to happen. Not an attack like the one we recently mourned in Algeciras where they killed a sacristan. No, an attack like the one on Las Ramblas. That's going to happen. If we don't solve the current situation, that's going to happen and we won't have to wait long.
Don't you see that there's also an extremely violent discontent being generated with the current situation, with the cases I just mentioned to you earlier? Alcalá de Henares, Murcia, Torre, Pacheco.
How is this going to end, Rubén?
But what are you doing? What are you doing? If the government doesn't implement the necessary measures for this, in fact,
it encourages them to come.
Of course, it promotes it. There's an institutionalized trafficking system in our country. When they arrive, there are humanitarian organizations that get to those illegal immigrants before the national police do. Humanitarian organizations that are funded by the government itself. Through what? That thing we call a ministry, what they've called the Ministry of Immigration, which I don't even know what it's for. They could have set up a ministry for the promotion of illegal immigration, because that's basically what they're doing. That would make more sense than this Ministry of Immigration. So when you see the government encouraging illegal immigration, are you seeing how the police, when you respond to problems arising from illegal immigration, label you as xenophobic and racist? You see the system fails, so you have to defend yourself. Because if the government doesn't defend you, if the police don't defend you, if the civil guard doesn't defend you, if the local authorities don't defend you, depending on where something like this happens, in the end you have to defend yourself, especially if you have a family, if you have sons, if you have daughters. Of course, the citizens in Alcalá de Henares, many of them were parents who had daughters, and they are worried about the situation. They don't want their daughter to be raped by a man from Mali. Is it normal for them to act this way? We have to protect our own. We have to protect our children. We have to protect our grandparents, our parents. See, if the police don't protect them and the police criminalize you for acting against a disaster like this, then in the end it comes naturally. Do it yourself. You have to defend yourself.
It is imperative and obligatory.
It's an obligation. It's an obligation. If we don't want this to happen, let's put in place the necessary mechanisms so that it doesn't happen.
But at the end of the day, they're more protected. I'm going down to Torre, Pacheco. By the time this podcast goes up, I'll probably have already gone. I'm convinced that if I witness any criminal act and intervene violently, I'm going to suffer more consequences than the perpetrator of that act.
Of course, because they're minorities. Yeah, we've come up with that term, right? Minorities. In some way, to go after those who respond to numerous incidents triggered by that minority. If not, a humanitarian group might come and criminalize the officer who detained that minority. You are the majority. When you get detained, you lower your head, because that's how it is too. All of this is happening, not only because of political power, in the direction of political power, but also because of our docility in the face of that political power. And because of our lack of oversight over that political power and the inability of the Spanish people to react to what is happening. So when you let things go for a long time, when you let things go for months, when you let things go for years, are you still voting for political options that support all this? The longer you drag out a problem, the more radical the action you'll have to take to avoid that problem. And that's what's happening. The government is interested too, correct? Let chaos reign in our streets, because for the current government, it seems that polarization works in their favor. But even a while ago, Zapatero was caught on a hot mic with Gabilondo saying that they needed to put more pressure. This works for them. It works for them to point at people, to say, there are the racists. They were carrying a Spanish flag. This one voted for Vox, the other one voted for PP, another was from Frente Obrero, and another came with Alvise Pérez. Of course, they want to paint an enemy. It's all of us against them, and they present themselves as the only solution that never actually solves anything. For them, it's the perfect scenario. And then, in the course of all that political maneuvering, we end up filling our country with people that we're later going to legalize and who are going to vote for us and who are just going to be mouths to feed. Grateful.
I understand, Rubén. Now, I want to discuss illegal immigration with you.
There are several myths circulating in Spain, especially among the progressive sector, who say, how can we not take them in? First, if they're minors. Second, if they're fleeing war.
You as an expert in this, is that really the case? Are the people who are arriving actually minors?
Are they really fleeing from war?
Why are only men coming? What percentage of men and women are entering? Let's discuss numbers and statistics.
Today I told you about an argument in my WhatsApp group with my dear friends from Villalba. Some insisted it was only minors coming in, denying the crime.
Is not strictly related to immigration coming from certain places, that Spaniards commit more crimes and so on.
But I would like to break down all these topics I just mentioned because I think it's extremely important to debunk certain myths. so that together with the truth in hand, we can implement solutions for the benefit of native Spaniards and both illegal and legal immigrants, including Maghrebis, Colombians, Venezuelans, and Dominicans, who are positively contributing to society.
If you flee from a conflict, you leave your children there, you leave your wife there, right? Instead, you get your wife and children out while you stay to address the situation in your country. Like what happened recently with Ukraine, or like what happened with many Russian citizens. That the men remained while only women and children came to Europe. That is fleeing from war. That is fleeing from a conflict. To begin. And if we look at it demographically, it's that all that argument falls under its own weight. Based on what I just told you, statistics that the government won't put on the table for you, demographic ones. But do they have them? Why do they have them? Because the Civil Guard collects data. The Civil Guard makes some internal reports that I access quite frequently. Because I collaborate with the Civil Guard on certain matters related to illegal immigration. And because I have conversations with them to, on some occasions, help them with certain situations that arise within the force or certain circumstances that occur at the borders. They want this known because speaking out could cost them their jobs. So I have a close relationship with everyone at the border, and they give me their information. Officers in reports, not notebooks, reports sent to the General Commissariat for Immigration, Borders, and the Ministry of the Interior. And what do those reports say? Well, those reports basically say that more than 90% of the illegal immigration arriving in Spain are men. More than 90 are males. There are 80-something adult males. There are less than 10% minors, but among those minors, there is a male representation of over 90%, and there is a residual percentage of females. But they're all males, the vast majority, except for a few females. That's not a demographic model fleeing from a conflict. And, okay, I'll give you the conflict part, that they're fleeing from a Western conflict. Well, it's dangerous. You must monitor who enters and understand their origins and intentions. But a conflict in Africa, a conflict in Exegel, with all the dangerous implications that means for our Western society. Even if they truly come from a conflict, like many Malians do, and now many Somalis are coming in. Those guys can't let them come without documents, and you can't let them come through illegal immigration routes. If you want to help someone, they have to be in a conflict. You have to establish safe routes to channel the people who are really facing a complex situation. By promoting illegal immigration, you're ultimately supporting a monetized system. Because many police operations have shown this. All these people from Mali, all these people from Somalia, from Mauritania, from Senegal, and from the entire African continent, in short, who use illegal immigration routes, are paying thousands of euros to human traffickers. Recently, I mentioned a case in the Balearic Islands, where the police investigation revealed that these Algerians had paid almost 10,000 euros, more than 9,500 euros. In Algeria, where the minimum monthly wage is around 200, 300 euros, do you know what it takes to gather almost 10,000 euros? What class are you from? Are you really someone in need? Are you really a person fleeing in a precarious situation? Well, allow me to doubt it, because you are in a precarious situation. You can't raise nearly 10,000 euros, and that's the issue. In the Algerian context I described, as well as in the Sahel, Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, and Somalia. They all pay thousands of euros. Those aren't people who are in a situation of precariousness. And there are certain contexts, like that of the Sahel. If you are able to gather that kind of amount, then allow me to have my doubts as well. That your way of obtaining those economic benefits is not very clean in an area like that. Because we're talking about a delightful context. We're talking about borders controlled by jihadists, the border between Somalia and Kenya, controlled by jihadists, which is the one these illegal immigrants use. In the end, they make 3 or 4 more border crossings to end up in Algeria and reach Spain. Regarding Mali, the northern border of Mali with Mauritania is controlled by jihadist cells. These immigrants fund the jihad to reach Spain illegally. By advocating for this model of immigration, we favor the upper middle class who pay traffickers and terrorists. Is this what we want? And they arrive undocumented. They tell you a name, a last name, an age, a country of origin, and you go and believe them. They say they're coming to work or study, and you believe them. One day, they grab a Kalashnikov, enter a concert, and open fire. You ask, how could this happen? How did this not happen before? Why don't we prevent this from happening? And that's the situation we have. Then regarding young adults, I've already told you the demographic rates, but there are a lot coming. A guy in his 20s, aware of the massive backlog in the juvenile prosecutor's offices in Spain, aware that the processes and the osteometric tests, the legal proceedings to determine age, can take up to a year. In the case of the Canary Islands, you're 22 or 23, but look young, you say you're 17, and you spend more than half a year living at our expense. With a bed, with food, with a weekly allowance, with a semi-open system that lets you go out, lets you get drunk, do drugs, and come back again. Insult the guards, abuse a social worker. This is a reality. I'm not talking about things that might happen. No, it's not a story. It's reality. This is what is happening today in centers like Hortaleza in Madrid, where workers from the Hortaleza Center have had to report situations like this to the national police. Anyone who wants to can verify this. And no one can accuse me of slander or defamation, because it's the truth. Because I have reports and I have read them and I have shared them through the media outlets I collaborate with. Do you believe everything I say could bring us anything good?
No, absolutely not.
Under no circumstances. If you want to help someone, first go there and find out how to help them there. Because the last thing a person from that country wants, if they're in a precarious situation, is to leave their country. We have to advocate for the right not to migrate, not for the right to migrate, because most people don't want to migrate. As the left says, they want to stay, fulfill themselves, and contribute in their own country. The only one who wants to leave is the one who has dark reasons for wanting to leave. And that's why something is emerging in our streets. Crime is rising exponentially related to illegal and uncontrolled immigration, because those who flee from there are not fleeing from war. In most cases, those who flee from there are running from justice.
Understood, Rubén. I'd like to talk before we discuss crime.
The other day, our dear Javier Ruiz on television, I don't know if you saw it, had a heated argument with our friend Samuel Vasquez, and he said that crime is going down. I'll save that for the end. Are you up for it?
I want to talk about NGOs.
To what extent?
Is Europe in cahoots with certain lobbies? And when I talk about Europe, I mean the European Union with certain lobbies that finance specific NGOs. So that this problem isn't a result of negligence, but a plan. I'm convinced that this is a plan.
This is impossible.
We do it so much we don't even notice. I'm convinced our politicians have sold out to certain investment funds.
They want Europe as we know it to disappear, and this is their tool. I don't know what you think.
If it's not a plan or what you're saying, doesn't it still seem similar? Right? The last thing I ever want is to go to something unreasonable, right? I try to be very empirical, to organize things well, to only talk about what I can prove or what I have been able to verify. But I can tell you that the current situation is very similar to what you just described, right? If it's not a pre-established plan, if there aren't investment funds behind it, well, it certainly looks like it, a lot. Whether there are real connections, well, those are things that maybe someday we'll manage to uncover, since one has already been discovered.
Connection. Do you know the non-governmental organization called Open Arms? No.
No, but those are other matters. Let's see. The thing is, NGOs, most of the humanitarian organizations that operate today around illegal immigration, don't need outside funders. The European Commission is funding the entire humanitarian organization system. Exactly. There's a large center in the Canary Islands where there are more than 2,000 illegal immigrants managed by a humanitarian organization. which is receiving European funds, and with those European funds, that large camp is being expanded. Most subsidies received by the organizations, humanitarian, come either from Europe, or from provincial councils, or from city councils, or from the government itself. They have a public tap, which is what nourishes them the most. They don't need outside funding sources. We are funding them publicly, massively.
And this is not debatable. This is
Not debatable. This is a reality. Check the financial reports of these humanitarian organizations. Some are transparent, others aren't. But anyway, go to the Red Cross, go to Accent, go to Comisión Española de Ayuda al Refugiado, look at their financial reports, which are public, look at their audits, which are public. And you'll see in the grants section that they've received funding from the Madrid City Council, the Andalusian Regional Government, the National Government, the European Commission, any provincial council, in case they operate there, and that they're funded by a lot of provincial councils in Catalonia. Everyone knows what they're doing and doesn't want them. They look the other way because it's convenient. Why is it convenient for them? Well, because of what you mentioned at the beginning. It may be convenient for them, but obviously it's also convenient for them to have a controllable demographic change so that later they can stay in power. Let's see, this is also a totally pernicious action. Kidnapping the population so that they later become your voters, your future voters, and trying to weave a clientelist network there. That seems perverse and pernicious to me, in every way. This also benefits you, as staying in power lets you do whatever you want and make your own choices. They say they want to fight the demographic winter this way, they want to fight the demographic winter this way, and the defrauding of the system to the common voter, to the worker, to the retirees, to all the sectors that the left has been turning into clients over the last few years. They can't do it anymore. Have any new political options appeared that realized they were deceived? That have put certain arguments on the table that in the end have managed to prove and convince them that they were being deceived? They've realized it themselves. Obviously, I'm voting here, a party that is promoting what's happening right outside my door. I'm not going to vote for that political party.
People blame the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party too much these days. But the PP has also been part of the problem we have today.
We can't. Pedro Sanchez is disgusting and the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party is a cancer.
The left, there are no words to describe the left in Spain.
But I think it's a problem with the system in general. What do you think?
Yes, me too. The thing is, I don't really get into such a tricky area because it's very tricky, but that's the real truth. I think even more.
Don't you usually discuss even tougher topics, Rubén?
Yes, but I have a lot of knowledge about
The subject.
today.
They kept coming and I haven't repealed
Any law. Yes, you mentioned the word system to me. Yes, and that's where it was. I've had many conversations in recent years. I think the political system is broken. I think we're falling into a failed state, which is very dangerous. Look, Rubén, when you say the PP and Spanish Socialist Workers' Party have done the same thing, absolutely, they've done the same thing. But they don't offer you, or rather, they don't offer you a solution either. The Popular Party doesn't inspire confidence in me.
Because if
You want to solve it. The current problem is no longer just about immigration, but also geopolitical issues that are closely linked to immigration. Because there is a country to the south with which we share a border across the strait, which is Morocco, that is making strategic use of immigration. They are using immigration as a tool of political pressure. And I haven't heard the Popular Party talk at any time about the situation we currently have in terms of foreign policy with Morocco. I haven't heard it. I haven't heard that they are going to address the new geopolitical situation in the Maghreb. I haven't heard him talk about Algeria. I haven't heard him talk about the Sahara. I haven't heard him talk about Morocco. I insist. That doesn't give me confidence, since that's where the problem is. If you're not even able to name those countries that are causing such a serious problem like immigration, well, allow me to doubt that you can solve this issue, because these kinds of problems need to be solved at their source. And the source of the problem is the situation in those countries of origin and the cross-border situation on that African continent. And the political use that many countries make of immigration. So you have to tell me how you're going to deal with Algeria to control that migratory pressure coming from Algerian territory or not. Your willingness from Algeria to accept its nationals, what will you do about Morocco? In a situation where Morocco releases thousands of pardoned and amnested people onto the streets who then end up here through illegal immigration. And you have to tell me what you are going to do with Mauritania, with Senegal, and with Gambia so that boats stop leaving from that area. And I don't hear you talk about that. I've never heard you talk about it. You don't inspire any confidence in me, less than Pedro Sanchez does.
I agree with you.
Pedro Sanchez knows where he is and those countries are because he's been there. But if you aspire to be president of the government, you have to go to Rabat, you have to go to Algiers, you have to go to Dakar, you have to go to all those areas. You have to start building relationships with those countries that are currently causing us a problem of this kind.
I understand, Rubén. I have a question about a statement you made and want to explore it further.
Morocco is skillfully using immigration as a weapon of political extortion.
I'd like to elaborate on that point. What do you mean?
For Morocco, immigration is a weapon and immigrants are its ammunition. And when Morocco wants to achieve certain goals, political goals, goals of all kinds, economic, logistical, they just have to open the migration tap and let 10,000 guys enter Ceuta. What happened? In 48 hours, they'll get a 30 million euro check. What happened? You just have to connect the facts to see that Morocco is making clever use of migration flows. Because that, in geopolitical terms, is called hybrid warfare or a hybrid threat. I believe Morocco has moved beyond being a hybrid threat. We are now facing hybrid warfare. Because Morocco is waging war against Spain through various factors that are part of this hybrid warfare. Immigration is one of them, cyber espionage is one of them, and electoral interference is one of them. There are multiple tools that fall under the term political warfare, and Morocco is putting all of them on the table. Morocco has spied on the Spanish government. Morocco has triggered electoral interference in autonomous cities like Ceuta or Melilla. Is Morocco using illegal immigration to put geopolitical pressure on Spain? We have an enemy that has declared war on us and we don't want to admit it. And if we don't admit it, well, there are also territorial concessions. Certain pressures, using immigration or using cyber espionage to force you to say that the best solution for the Sahara is the one proposed by the Alawi regime. No, you are a power, your opponent.
To the concession.
Sahrawi. Totally. Let's see. Is it the international courts? Back in the 70s, they said that Spain is the administrative power of that area and that Spain has to ensure a process of self-determination in that area, not a process of occupation by Morocco. Those people have the right to decide what to do, not to be occupied, to be beaten, to be mistreated, or to have war started against them. In the Tindus area, no, you have to give them a peaceful solution. You can't allow people who were years ago compatriots to be oppressed. You can't let that happen. Besides, you can't just give up a territory like that. We're not talking about a trivial territory, right? We're talking about Western Sahara, and strategically it's also very positive for us. And you're putting a bow on that territory and handing it over to Mohammed, except there you have it. A territory that can help us control immigration, that can help us grow economically. Take fishing, for example, right? Could it also be very beneficial? And you're giving away all that territory there? It's a touristy territory that Morocco is exploiting. Places like Dakhla, paradise-like, where there are incredible waves and surfers from all over Europe are ending up. There, hotel complexes have been built dedicated to all that wind tourism. Yeah, that too we're giving to Morocco there. No, without asking the Sahrawis for permission, without considering what we can do for them. What solution can we put into practice there? And I also insist on this for the issue of immigration. controlling the Atlantic route. All that territory is key. All that territory is now controlled by the Moroccan authorities to put pressure on the Sahrawi people to do whatever they want in tourism and sports facilities. What are they also going to do in the Sahara? To exploit it for fishing, for minerals, or on multiple levels? In short, we let them do that, we let them be there. But then, watch out, if a boat leaves from Cabo Bojador, if a boat leaves from Dakhla, if a boat leaves from any Saharan coast, there, not anymore, there, that's it. We don't control that. We control the territory, but we don't control the illegal immigration that leaves from that territory, and we allow that. We just can't allow that. And what I said at the start, the thing is, we are the administrative power of that area, and we must ensure the right to self-determination for the Sahrawi people.
And a question, Rubén, do you see a full-scale war as possible, not a hybrid one, but a total one?
They don't need it. Militarily, they're at a disadvantage and don't need it. Is this working for them?
Are they at a military disadvantage?
Yes. They're buying, but they're still at a military disadvantage, militarily. It's not worth it. It'll wear them down. In Morocco, even if they can sell you Rabat, Casablanca, or Tangier, the interior of Morocco is poor. There's nothing there. They can scare us, that's true, but nothing more. They can't do anything else. And this is working very well for them, and this is working very well for them because they have tools. I mean, do you think that
It will never escalate to an armed conflict?
I think that as of today, no. No, I'm not saying right now, but imagine in the future. It depends on Morocco's plans. Let me.
Give you an example. I have a question for you. Are you a real bear, or are you just fooling yourself into believing you are? I'm going to tell you an uncomfortable truth, and that is, you are the reflection of the people you surround yourself with.
For years, I was trapped in an environment that led me nowhere, surrounded by people with no ambition, waiting for something to change.
But the reality is that things don't change unless you take control of your life and surround yourself with the right people.
That's why I created Club Red Pill 3.0, a space designed for men who want to surround themselves with real warriors.
A space where we discuss key topics like masculinity, stoicism, relationships, and couple dynamics.
Where we try to give you the necessary tools to reach your maximum potential. Keep improving every day so you become the men this society so desperately needs. Additionally, by joining, you get access to an exclusive section where you can ask questions to users, to guests of the factory, and learn directly from the leaders in the industry. If you want to be part of the community, I'll leave the link in the pinned comment. Let's continue with the OSO podcast. Vox comes out, or Albis comes out, or any new party like that, more patriotic.
That stands up for everything you're saying, that we can't allow Western Sahara to be handed over to Morocco.
And we send troops there. And besides, we started to implement mass deportation policies for illegal immigrants. We tell them, these are Moroccans, I send them back. Same for Algeria. And we started to say clearly that any kind of territorial claim over Ceuta, Melilla, or the Canary Islands will be met with a strong response.
In that context,
Which I see as unlike.
in that context, you would see it as possible because it would be what needs to be done.
And it should be made clear that when we talk about Morocco, we're not talking about the Moroccans who are here contributing and doing a great job and so on. We're talking about Morocco as a nation state led by Mohammed VI.
That's all, please, my Moroccan friends, understand what we're talking about here.
This is not a war or conflict against you. You are here working and contributing.
This is a geopolitical conflict, and you can't cover the sun with a finger because of sentimentality.
But you? If a scenario like that is drawn, is Spain an intelligent country? Spain set certain geopolitical and diplomatic triangulations in motion so that Morocco ends up crushed.
It is
Completely achievable. First, due to Spain's military strength and the training of many Spanish soldiers. I've been there for more than 10 years. Spain
a military power.
Spain is a military power. The thing is, it's a military power. Not trained in war scenarios. It's very well trained, but it doesn't go to war. When you don't go to war, the scenario changes a lot. From training to actual action. It could be that we might have some problems there, but it's a problem that the military who work in those kinds of scenarios will solve very soon. There's a lot of capability, but you have to be there. I've served in the armed forces for over 10 years and know my comrades' abilities. They have enormous capability with military intelligence that's huge but often overlooked. And then we talk about Algeria, which militarily is above Morocco as well. If you're able to forge a military alliance with Algeria, Morocco would last a month at most. Maybe a month if we're being generous. Because Algeria also supports the Sahrawi cause. Algeria is not going to allow Morocco to keep occupying the Sahara either. And there we'll have a connection, and there we can find an ally. Algeria has always treated Spain well. If you give the Sahara to Morocco, Algeria gets upset.
It's normal. It's normal.
That they get upset.
That has never been a question.
Ceuta and Melilla. When I published that Ceuta and Melilla have never belonged to Morocco, I mean they existed even before the creation of the nation-state of Morocco.
A lot of people were telling me, excuse me, let me rephrase this. I said that any Moroccan living in Spain who has nationalist aspirations for Morocco regarding
Spanish territory
should be expelled immediately, because we cannot afford the luxury of having a fifth column.
That is to say, with a country with which we have geopolitical tensions, we should not allow people to live here who would side with that country in the event of a conflict.
I think this is obviously logical, but
not Ceuta, Melilla, the Rift, or the northern region. So let's talk about it. That wasn't Morocco, that wasn't Ceuta, nor Melilla, nor Al Hokeima, nor the entire Rift area. That is the Rif.
The Riffians don't want to be part of Morocco.
Most Riffians don't want to be part of Morocco. And most of the Riffians don't express that desire publicly because of the repression that the Alawi regime can subject them to. There have already been many Riffians who have led activist movements who have been imprisoned just for saying that this is not Morocco and that this is the Rif, and that it is up to them to decide whether that is Morocco or that is the Rif. And whether they are closer to Spain or closer to Morocco, that belongs to them. There are Rifis exiled in Algeria because they can't be in Moroccan territory. There are Rifis exiled in Spain.
Because they can't?
They can't be there in Moroccan territory because they are persecuted and imprisoned. In the best case, if you're already well known in the movement, they might even accuse you of a crime you didn't commit. Many journalists opposing the Alagi regime have been accused of crimes like sexual abuse and theft to justify imprisoning them.
So, Rubén,
Neither Ceuta nor Melilla nor anything around them, but there are sayings. Melilla is older than Navarra. Are you going to tell me right now that that was Morocco? That has never been Morocco. Morocco didn't exist there.
that's what I want to talk about here. These claims over these territories exist. We're not making them up, yes?
But because it's one more tool of hybrid tactics and hybrid threat triggered by Marruecos. Planting all those non-existent ideas and delusions among their population, from educational centers to social networks, picking key activists who keep telling you that this is a
Spanish occupation
and that it should be reclaimed. But try telling that to those 20-year-olds unaware of their country's history. Because I insist, Morocco is nothing. If you take away the Rif and if you take away the Sahara, it's nothing. But of course, you put all those dreams, all that expansionism into teenagers' heads. And they buy into it because it sounds very nice, because that's how they paint it for you. But they paint the picture that Greater Morocco starts at the plateau and ends in Mauritania. That's how they sell it to you. Of course, there are maps.
Maps that say it starts at the Spanish plateau, there are
Maps from Andalusia to Mauritania. The great Morocco dreamed of, that's an expansionist dream. And that dream appeals to certain young people there. In fact, every time I criticize Morocco or defend Ceuta and Melilla, defend the Canary Islands, defend the Sahara, my posts get flooded with Moroccan comments from fake accounts, telling me that they're going to take them back. They claim the Canary Islands, Ceuta, Melilla, and Andalusia belong to them.
Everything belongs to them.
That everything belongs to them. Ultimately,
it's a
very well-rooted expansionist dream among the Moroccan population. When there are problems in Morocco, when there's social unrest, this comes in really handy to calm those urges and social uprisings. Hey, focus on our expansionist project. Don't attack the regime that's going to help you build greater Morocco. And in short, that's the ideology that's put into the minds of all those young people. And Morocco is a country with significant demographic expansion. And if you keep doing that to all those young people, if you keep practicing that kind of lobotomization, that lobotomy constantly, well, you're going to have an army of kids who believe that Greater Morocco is a territory bigger than Europe.
But then, the question I'm going to ask you here is, to what extent?
Is it our fault, that expansionist delusion on the part of the Moroccan state?
It's our fault for letting them continue making public statements in that direction. But not only from people from Morocco, but also from former socialist leaders who put it on the table. Well, former leaders and current leaders, let's talk about the former leaders. Former leaders like Bono, like Zapatero, who organize any congress in the Canary Islands or in strategic places, and they tell you that maybe you need to think about it. That thing about Ceuta and Melilla needing a decolonization process, more or less, right? Has that been brought up by former socialist leaders? Look it up in newspaper archives and you'll find it there. And then we have a foreign minister like Alvarez. He has repeatedly said that the best solution for the Sahara issue is the one proposed by the kingdom of Mohammed VI.
The solution is for it to be annexed to Morocco.
That's the solution. That's the solution, Morocco. He can paint it prettier or uglier with more or fewer drawings, but that's the solution. Because if the solution were different, if the solution were similar to what international treaties consider, Morocco would leave the occupied territories to look for a solution. But it still occupies territories. And if you take out a Saharan flag anywhere, they have a strong presence. Careful, huh? Careful, because the least that can happen to you is that they arrest you and put you in prison. That's the least that can happen to you. If unseen, they might shoot you. Just for carrying a flag of the country you're in.
And you, what solution do you see to all this, Rubén? What solution do you see to all this?
Man, the solution I see is to have a decent government, one that can triangulate diplomatically. Otherwise, it should cut ties with a blackmailing country like Morocco. It's about opening up, not about restoring the very good relations we've had in the past with Algeria. And that it starts working towards a solution at the immigration level and a solution at the geopolitical level. Because Algeria, if I'm not mistaken, shares 7 borders with Africa. You have to look at the territory of Algeria. You have no idea about the level of immigration that moves through Algerian territory. What arrives here in Spain from Algeria is, well, just 10%. That's being generous, huh? Is that what actually gets here out of everything that's moving? Just 10% goes through Algeria, and they're not asking us for anything. It's a country that's aware that illegal immigration and the transit of illegal people don't bring anything good for the country.
Nor
in terms of security, nor in terms of crime, nor in any way. And
90, where does it go, Rubén?
No, the 90 doesn't fail to reach northern Algeria. Okay, go down again, because Algeria will control illegal immigration territory. So, question.
Only 10% of what's sent to Spain comes from Algeria, right?
Of what moves in Algeria, only 10% escapes. That's what I'm telling you. So Algeria controls 90%. Without asking for anything in return, you have a country that has done things right for years. What will Morocco do? Does Morocco use them? Does Morocco use them to pressure us? And now with everything about the Gordo case and all that, we have also seen messages where a superior officer of the national police acknowledges that Morocco has tried to suffocate the Canary Islands. But Morocco and the
has suffocated them. It hasn't tried?
It has succeeded well, and it has suffocated Ceuta, and it has suffocated Melilla. Every time it wanted to put pressure on different Spanish territories with people, it has done so.
Totally.
Costa Catitanas in 2018. The thing is, we have very little memory. We analyze the problem very little. The people who take part in televised debates have no damn idea. And I say it clearly, except for a few people who have said, let's deal with this problem with a bit of sanity. Samuel Vázquez, Carlos Paz, and Roberto Vaquero are now doing it. There are a lot of people saying, look, this isn't about spitting. We're not going to analyze the causes. We're going to analyze everything that's happening, and we're going to put the truth on the table. And without mincing words, but just as much without mincing words as without making things up, know whether they're unnecessary or true, okay? Political strategies that don't do us any favors either. If you want not only to raise awareness among the public, but also to confront a problem of this nature, you have to confront it with common sense, with knowledge, from the root of the problems. And accepting a reality, and ultimately accepting a reality and not deceiving yourself. It's just that to people. But
a question, Rubén. To what extent do you think, politically speaking, they are aware?
And just to keep milking the system so they don't get filtered out?
That cyber espionage you mentioned earlier by the current government, do they allow all these things that are counterproductive for the native Spanish population?
I'm not sure anymore. I can't help but think this is planned.
I just don't believe that someone can be so perfectly inept by accident, because they truly are inept.
I think his role is to seem inept and that way fulfill the plan. Do I make myself clear?
That is to say?
No, chaos benefits them. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And that in chaos they find not only political gain, but also a weapon to cut off heads, to cancel people. To say we need to control Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the media, and everything necessary so that we can respond to a problem of this nature. Because they never put me or never sit me in a debate with a representative from a humanitarian organization or with a representative from Podemos or Spanish Socialist Workers' Party. It has happened on rare occasions, and every time it has happened...
They've said not to upload the video.
The video isn't uploaded. I uploaded it myself. But they've been exposed. Because what was expected, there was a political confrontation. What was expected, there was a populist confrontation. Ultimately, only trivial arguments were expected there. But I have hit them with the facts. And when faced with the facts, with mathematics, with statistics, with the analysis of a problem, with police reports from Frontex, there you can use all the political tactics you want. You can try to bring it down. The empirical analysis of the problem is really complex, not to say it's impossible.
I want to talk about something, Rubén, with you to close this block.
Javier Ruiz, the other day having a discussion, because that was a discussion with that arrogant look that journalist has. Speaking with Samuel Vázquez on television, he said that crime was going down.
Did you see it?
Yes, of course, I saw it.
Is this true?
No, that's not true. Look, first of all, it's not true because it depends on when you start to analyze it. It's just that if you start to analyze it right now, problems in the Canary Islands related to illegal immigration with statistics from the past year, illegal immigration that has occurred in the Canary Islands so far this year has decreased. You could even say it has dropped significantly compared to last year's disasters. But if you look back, illegal immigration in the Canary Islands is crazy. If you analyze the data with some perspective, it depends on where you want to start from. If you want to start since the pandemic, when no one was going out, when no one was committing crimes, obviously you see a drop in crime rates there. So, of course, they are experts at doing these things. They are experts at telling you. From 2017 to 2020, crime rates have gone down. Give me a break. But we weren't even going outside. How could there be any crimes? Crime rates clearly decreased. But then go check the statistics from the Women's Institute related to what they call gender-based violence, which are public. Go look at the number of fatalities in cases related to violence against women. Nearly 50% of murderers are foreigners, though they make up less than 15% of the population. There are related problems there. There's a predisposition to crime, and that's a reality shown by those statistics. Take a walk through El Raval, take a walk through El Puche, go to El Príncipe to buy some cigarettes. I don't know. Go check it out yourself. I've been to places in Spain and seen this myself. It's a real issue, especially in some less desirable areas. Clearly, it's another thing whether they're called that or not.
What is a not so great area?
A not so great area is a place where not only will you not feel safe, but you'll also come out of there in bad shape. I filmed a report in El Raval with cameras, and not just with cameras, but with 7 officers from the urban guard who were discreetly protecting my safety and the safety of a political figure I was walking with through El Raval. Even with cameras, that's recorded, and you can see it, even with cameras, even with the presence of 7 undercover officers. If you're not really dumb, you'll see that they didn't follow. With enthusiasm? For what? I don't know, because fortunately those guys were blocked, but they were chasing us and getting closer and closer to us. Filming another report in El Puche. In that case, I was the only one filming that report in El Puche. They started throwing stones at me from the windows. I had to leave the place. For me, that's a place where in El Príncipe you can't even enter. They threaten you with a gun from the outside. That's recorded too.
And you?
They're telling you they shoot you if you go into El Príncipe. That's an area, right? Wow. But it's not just El Raval, El Puche, El Príncipe. There are many areas that are becoming not wow. You go to Murcia, to the Carmen neighborhood, and you feel really uncomfortable. You go to certain areas in Madrid. By this I mean lavapiés at certain times, and you feel really uncomfortable. These are areas that are on the edge of not being wow. That's what they're for.
Torre Pacheco?
Torre Pacheco. I've been to Torre Pacheco, and at a certain hour, Torre Pacheco becomes a bit uncomfortable for me because I don't like it. Even if they don't hit me or insult me, no, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. With a lot of Maghrebi people gathered together, looking a bit strange, staring at me in an intimidating way. That doesn't reassure me. They don't have to do anything, but I just don't feel comfortable anymore. If 1 or 2 people look at you, you could say that happens to any Spaniard too. But if they start gathering because they're watching you, they see you're doing a report, they see you're documenting certain things, they're watching you. Are you going to seek justice after what happened? It happened recently, and 20 of them gather on a corner to stare at you in an intimidating way. For me, that's also something I don't want in my country. I want to walk peacefully. I don't want people looking at me with threatening eyes as if saying, if I don't leave, I'll have trouble. I don't want that in my country. Sorry. If you want it, that's fine, but I don't.
Rubén?
There are many people who think this problem is exclusive to Spain, but honestly, from my perspective, I think Spain is quite behind.
Regarding illegal immigration, are you referring to these kinds of no-go zones compared to the rest of Europe?
France?
What's going to happen with France? What's going to happen with Belgium? What's going to happen with Germany? Which one is it?
Europe is facing a pretty delicate situation. And I have love for all people, regardless of their race or religion, who have come here to contribute and don't wish any harm to me or my loved ones.
But I don't see a nice way out.
No, me neither. Look, for me, from my point of view, there are many countries that have a complex solution.
For example,
France, Belgium, United Kingdom.
Damn, United Kingdom, huh?
Sweden is starting to take action, just in time. But are there countries that the United Kingdom can't be saved? The United Kingdom can still be saved, but it's a complicated salvation. Complicated? You mean complicated? I mean a conflict, a civil conflict, a war. It's the only thing that can solve the situation in many countries right now.
France, the same, right?
I think France still has a political option, but it has to make a choice, right? It has to make very, 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 very decisive decisions. Why are you making a
Distinction between France and the United Kingdom? Why in the United Kingdom? Is that the only solution you see?
Because in the United Kingdom, they have conquered political power. In France, they have conquered it, but on a smaller scale. But in the United Kingdom, they are already in regional parliaments, they are already in cities, they are already there. When they already slip into political seats, when they already have legislative power, it becomes complicated. They'll obviously make laws that benefit themselves. And when they create laws tailored to their customs and ways of living, then either you confront it or there is no solution. So I think that in France there is still a political option to solve this issue, because the French political class right now, if it decides to react, it will have the power to react. But we've already seen many conflicts in the United Kingdom that have not only been silenced, but leaders from certain communities have been called upon to solve those conflicts. So, in a way, implicitly, they're already recognizing that they have political power over English society. Reversing that is complex. And does this thing about religious leaders have a connection to crime rates? And the thing is, there are many places or many cities in Spain. What we've mentioned about El Puche, that many conflicts in El Puche won't be solved by the national police, they'll be solved. The religious leader. And when does the religious leader solve a problem? When does the religious leader intervene in certain crimes to resolve them by applying Islamic law or Sharia? That isn't included in the Ministry of the Interior's statistics. So are we not going to be aware if crime increases in certain ghettos that already exist in Spain? Because that crime is controlled by the spiritual leader, and then nothing else happens to the spiritual leader. He leaves a note saying, there have been 50 violent robberies in the neighborhood. What have we achieved by handling these problems this way? The police haven't intervened, Liman has intervened, and Liman is the one who delivered justice. So, in this way, it's also going to be hard for us to understand the criminological trends in many areas and regions of Spain. But going back again, the bridge to what you were telling me, for me, that's why the United Kingdom has a difficult solution. And that's why I think that if France reacts in time, which I believe it is doing, things could be different. Well, they're late, aren't they? They're very late. They're very late. But now there is a reaction. They're stepping on the accelerator, both from many youth groups and also from political parties. Also young political leaders like Mario Marechal, who are leading not only a political response, but also a social one to all these problems and are willing to solve them. But of course, the French citizens have to realize that the solution is right there.
And vote
accordingly regarding
the problem. Rubén, what I see is that a large part of the population is satisfied with the circumstances that are being imposed on us from Brussels regarding immigration and illegal immigration, only out of fear of being labeled as racist or xenophobic. Don't you feel the same way?
Yes, there's a lot of fear. But because the magnitude of the problem isn't known, because most people don't know anything at all about what we've mentioned here, because they spend the afternoon watching television, and because television talks about young people, and because television talks about minorities, and because television talks about racism and xenophobia. And then you won't find out because television talks to you about wars, talks to you about hunger, talks to you about boys, talks to you about girls. And then most Spanish citizens are still unaware, and those who are becoming aware do so only because they're experiencing the problem firsthand. Not because they learned from your channel, which I wish, but because they discovered it themselves. They discovered it after a young woman was raped, an elderly man was beaten, and a sacristan was killed.
Because their daughter was accused, because they have...
Of course, and that's why they're realizing it, but most of the population ignores it. Most people are into soccer, beer, and planning their vacations and not being late. So, of course, if people really knew about the situation we're in and what it could mean in the short term, because it is in the short term. If we don't reverse this, if people were really aware of that, they would react strongly and in time. especially those who have families.
It terrifies me. Yesterday, my brother's boyfriend had his car stolen.
Yesterday, my brother's boyfriend had his car stolen.
Hey, no, the other day, well, actually a few days ago, someone tried to rob my little brother at gunpoint too. I won't describe the person, but it was a blank gun.
But even so, if you don't know, well, things are really tough.
Rubén and I, precisely because of that.
I don't live in a cheaper area because a cheaper area means there are more problems.
And I pay a fortune in rent every month because I still haven't saved enough to buy a house.
And seeing how things are in Spain with taxes, with security, with everything in general.
And the areas, even the wealthier ones, huh?
Wealthier areas are also affected, I think.
Yeah, well, in Almeria, ask people living in residential areas, especially those who spend summers there.
That people break into their houses, of course.
That people break in. They've even found them swimming in their pool.
And what happens when they see them swimming in the pool?
Well, they call the police, obviously. Now they call the police, and the police usually take action. Eventually, so many people will be swimming in the pool that the police won't be able to do anything. And that's when the problems will start.
Don't you think the Spanish people today are cowardly compared to how our ancestors were historically?
Yes.
Yes, cowardly, numb, and effeminate. Sorry, I don't care if I offend anyone, but...
It really makes me feel genuine.
Yes, no, because I talk to a lot of people. People tell me this happened to me, this happened to my neighbor, this happens in my town, that happens in my town. And I say, would you say it in front of a camera with me? No, because
let's see what they're going to say.
Of course, not only that, but like I said, I'm telling you so you can tell it. And if something happens, let it happen to you, but not to me, right? That one? Well, if we keep going with it doesn't happen to me, it's going to happen to your son, your daughter, your father, your mother, and your whole family. Yeah, the worst part is we just stand there. Will you regret not recognizing this problem when you could?
Yeah, and Rubén, I defended Jan the other day.
2030, do you know who Laha is? Well, I'm not going to tell what really happened to him because I don't want to cause panic.
But it's very serious, very serious. I posted a really tough story saying that this is starting to be...
That anyone from outside who doesn't clearly take a stand against it. Of these scumbags who are capable of, in broad daylight, practically lynching someone to death.
Just for filming with a camera? Why is that? But he's provoking them. Did he really say you're engineers, but you're not?
Jan does have a provocative style, but let him go to La Moraleja and say, look at them playing golf, and so on.
You'll see that's not going to happen to him. No, never.
So really, what those people did, beating him almost to death with knives, with weapons, machetes, with iron rods? What Jan did was prove that everything Jan does is completely
justified. But they're going to
go after you.
But they're going to kill you, not going to let you live.
Warn you, no!
They're going to finish you off. Do you know
how many death threats I received for?
That, I've received many and I've reported them, and they've hit me with a bar on the
head. And you?
2, leaving my house for this.
What about you? Have you faced consequences?
I have suffered physical consequences from the Maghrebi population for doing what I'm doing. So there it is. When I went to record the report in El Puche during the day, stones rained down on me from the windows. If I ignore those signals from them, let's call it that. What would have happened to me? What would have been next? After the stones, what's next? If they hit you on the head with a stone, you know why they're doing it? Because I published the video, they were throwing stones at me here, and I stopped recording, telling a police officer who was coming with me and helping me. I think we need to leave now. Yes, we left that place because after the stones, what's next? In a place where you know there are clandestine prayer rooms, in a place where you know there are radicalized individuals, in a place where you know there are weapons, once you see stones, you have to leave that place in broad daylight. I think it was around 3 in the afternoon or something.
That's how it is. Rubén, this is getting more and more dangerous, but I want to ask you a question. Have we talked about the solution in France?
Did we discuss the solution in the United Kingdom? It's more drastic.
From your point of view, does Spain have
a solution? Yes, Spain still has time, but it has to act now and decisively. Are you talking about geopolitics?
In geopolitics, you're referencing a time period
of less than 2 years. Yes, because now Morocco is also calm. It's calm because of everything about the World Cup. Morocco is cleaning its streets. Morocco wants to look Western. Morocco wants to put its crime-free and advanced cities in the international spotlight. Morocco wants to make a showcase, it's making a showcase. So since Morocco is making a showcase, Morocco can't carry out certain actions right now. But what about when the World Cup is over if we don't act now? And what if we don't tell Morocco how things really are and how they aren't? We're going to have problems starting in 2030 because Morocco won't care anymore, because Morocco won't have to put up any kind of front. What happens is that right now it has to look like a great country, it has to look like a Western country, and it gives us a certain truce. But after the World Cup, we're going to have problems, and who will be in the government in 2030? Well, we don't know what will have been done by then. That's why we have to act now. The message needs to be sent now, and the message needs to be sent right away. Morocco wants to appear to be something it is not. Because Morocco wants to appear to be something it is not, we can take advantage of that window to tell Morocco and send Morocco the right message.
I find it unbelievable that we are preparing for a World Cup with a nation state that is literally in a belligerent mode against us.
It is
surrealism. No, it's surreal. Yes, there's no
way to make sense of it. And honestly, which political party do you think could solve this problem?
Because this is where the biggest issue of all lies.
Do you think Giorgia Meloni is doing a good job with the issue of
immigration?
Halfway, the thing is, no one is going to do the job.
Completely. It has a political price that you have to be willing to take on. If you come into power and want to solve this problem, you have to start as soon as you set foot in Moncloa and accept the political price. And accept you may only be there 4 years. You can't have intentions of staying in power. You have to have intentions of safeguarding your country, of taking care of it. 4 years. No.
This problem won't be solved just because you've arrived.
It depends on how you act, because if you act in a way that your people, like Bukele does, that's your people. In a short period of time, they will become aware of all this and that you are the one who has been able to solve it. They might even give you more years, but of course, you shouldn't think about that. You have to think that you're going in to solve your country's problem. No single political party can fix that. The civil society also has a lot to say, and here in Spain, at the civil level, we do little. So I think we also need to mobilize ourselves. Because in the end, a civil movement is also capable of putting enough pressure so that the political power does what it has to do. But of course, we have to be united. We have to be united with logic, with common sense, without acting foolishly and knowing what we're doing. Not getting lost in strange stories about flags and ideologies, nor political parties. I think it has to be a social movement, which a political party can lead at a given moment, but the paradigm has to change a lot. For me to tell you who can do it and who can't.
Do it. I completely agree, Rubén.
Ultimately, you're sending a message of hope, but if at the end of the day we have a good head on our shoulders and we're aware.
And these aren't stories, these aren't opinions. What has been discussed here, this is pure statistics, pure information.
And whoever wants to accept it, let them accept it. And whoever doesn't, let them keep living in their own movie.
But they should know they're doing serious harm to the nation, serious harm to Spain.
And the consequences, no matter how much you ignore reality, are still going to be the same.
Therefore, what message would you share with the audience?
Well, when they become aware of what's happening, because they will become aware, and if they are aware, they shouldn't turn a blind eye. They shouldn't hide it. They should do everything possible so that their neighbor, their friends, their family, the people closest to them know what's happening. They shouldn't hide it. Or that when a debate opens up, they downplay the issue. We are in the era of raising awareness. At the moment when people need to know what's happening and the consequences that what is happening can bring. So we can't hesitate. We can't take refuge in that. They're going to call us racists. My neighbor. Well, let your neighbor not talk to you. Let them call you a racist. Let them call you whatever. They'll call you worse things when they're not with you. So speak without fear, make your people aware. Because I believe that's how we can build a great network of civic awareness, which could end up in the end having a positive outcome. I told this to a high-ranking police officer a few days ago. I find out about a crime that happened in a city and I say, hey, from what I see, I don't think it was a Spaniard. You see in the reports things like Matalion, Machete, you see certain things and you say, this doesn't sound like someone from Murcia to me, it happened in Murcia. And the high-ranking police officer says to me, couldn't you tell? And I say, well, no. By acknowledging the problem, it's hard to fight the problem. So you have to recognize the problem and you have to raise awareness about the magnitude of the problem and you have to be willing to fight against the problem. And we can do it in many ways.
I completely agree, Rubén.
It seems like they're just trying to cover the sun with a finger, but in the end, we all get burned.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. It's been a great pleasure having you here, Rubén. This is your home. I'll try to get you a representative from the Red Cross or a non-governmental organization to debate with you.
We'll arrange it.
Hey, let's see if they dare.
And gentlemen, whoever wants to access the drink has the link in the video description.
And we'll leave access to my private community in the pinned comment.